Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Deep Learning with Tensorflow series. This time I'm going to teach you guys about callbacks and also how to save your models. So what I've got here is a variation of one of our notebooks that we had previously. Just like always, the source code is adapted from this book here, Deep Learning with Python 2nd edition. And basically, if just as a reminder here, what this is using is the Reuters dataset, and we're just taking articles like news articles basically and classifying them. So I'll just be using this to teach you guys the new concepts, okay? So the first thing I'll be teaching you guys is how to save your model. This is important so that you don't have to retrain the model every time you want to use a machine learning model. It wouldn't make a lot of sense otherwise. Like every time you want to, use your model in the real world in a real application, you would have to retrain it every time. That doesn't really make sense. So ideally, you would do all the pre-processing and setup you want to do, figure out the best, layout for your model, configure everything as best as you can, and then eventually you'll arrive at a result that you like. So you'll evaluate the model and you'll be like, okay, this is decent. And so you'll save it. And so what that will do is take all the weights and parameters of your model and save it to a file so that you can load it up without having to retrain the entire thing. So if we want to save this model, it's actually really easy. All we got to do is model.save, and then all we got to do is provide a model name. So we can say my_model, and then now you want to specify the extension as .keras. So let's run this, and that's it. It'll literally just take your model and save it into a keras file. So it's a special file specifically for keras that has all the model parameters and everything that you need. So now let's go ahead and load the model. We'll put it in a different variable than the one that we have above, so we can make sure that it does return the same evaluation results. So we can make sure that it's actually the same model, of course. So model2 is equal to keras.models.load_model. It's a function, and then you just specify the model name. So my model.keras. And so that will load it, and then now we could try it out. So results, let me just copy this. Boom. And then just make sure you change this from model to model2. Boom, here we go. So now we get the same results. So 1.17 and then 0.78. So it's definitely the same model. The only difference is that we didn't have to actually train the model. We loaded it from a file. So this is useful again when you have good results and you want to actually save the model so you can use it elsewhere in a different application. But also maybe you just download a model online, someone else's model, and you want to try it out in your application. You can load it like this. The next thing I want to teach you guys about is callbacks. So callbacks are a type of object in Keras and TensorFlow that is called by the model at various points in the training process. So it can actually monitor the training process. It can run before batches, it can run after batches, before epochs, after epochs, just different parts of the life cycle of the training process. And you could do all kinds of stuff like monitoring the performance of the model. So you could like store the loss, evaluate the accuracy, for example, all kinds of stuff. So for example, one of the callbacks that we have is early stopping. So the way it works is basically it will monitor the training process, and if it detects for a certain number of epochs that the validation accuracy does not improve or the validation loss does not improve, it will terminate the training process. I'll explain more of that in literally just 1 second. So before we do this though, what I'm going to do is go above, and I'm going to take this where we actually create our model and just wrap it in a function definition. So we're going to do define build model, boom, and then return model. This is something that you'll commonly see. This is just so that we can reuse our model architecture in multiple places so that we don't have to type this code every single time, okay? Now we're going to do model3 is equal to build model. So we're just going to compile the model just like normal. And now the callbacks is something that you provide during the fit function when you're calling that one. So model3.fit, we're now just going to pass in all of our normal stuff. So the X training set, the Y train, the epochs, the batch size, validation split, and then we can also specify callbacks, and for this, you just want a list of callbacks, okay? Because you can have multiple. So we're going to do callbacks is equal to, open that up. So there's a few built-in callbacks, keras.callbacks, and they're all part of this. So callbacks, and you have all these different options here. So for example, early stopping I mentioned before. This will stop the model training process early if it detects that the model is not improving in its performance. So monitor. This is going to be the metric that the early stopping callback should monitor to determine if it should stop early or not. So for example, the validation accuracy. So we know that there's going to be both a training accuracy and also a validation accuracy. So to specify it, to monitor that validation accuracy, we're going to do val_accuracy. The other parameter that we want is the patience, which is how many epochs that it should wait before terminating the model training process. So let me explain what this does one more time. So the way it works is during the training of the model, each epoch, it's going to check the validation accuracy and it's going to see if it improved from the previous epoch. If it did not improve for 3 epochs in a row, it will stop the model training. That's it, okay? And so what we can also do is change it from validation accuracy to validation loss. So now, since we're monitoring the validation loss, this will help prevent the model from overfitting. Because as we learned about before, the loss will decrease ideally over time, right? But then at a certain point, the loss will start to go back up, which is overfitting. So one of the ways that we learn we can combat overfitting is actually just cutting it off at the point, at the epoch in which we detect overfitting happens, okay? So this is a thing that will essentially do that automatically for us. Another callback that we have is the model checkpoint callback. So the way that this one works is we're going to specify a file path. So we'll say checkpoint model.keras. Every single epoch is going to save the latest version of the model in this file here. So by default, every single epoch is just going to override the latest version of the model with whatever the weights are for that specific epoch. Something that you can do though is have it monitor a specific metric, just like we do with the early stopping callback. So we could do something like validation loss again or validation accuracy, whatever metric you have. And then you can combine that with another parameter, so save best only. And just like it sounds, this will only save the file and overwrite the previous one if the validation loss is better than what's already saved. So for example, at a certain epoch, if it's the lowest it's ever been, it's going to save that. And if there's already a file there, it'll overwrite it. And then if the next couple epochs it goes up for some reason, the loss goes up, it will not override it. But then even later, if it goes back down and lower than it ever was before, it will override, the one that was currently saved. So hopefully that makes sense. It only saves the best one based on the validation loss or whatever metric you specify should monitor. Okay, so those are just two callbacks. We have many different options, but now that we have a list of callbacks that we want to use for our model training process, we can specify them like that. And now all we got to do is call fit. So let's run it. So it's just going to go through the normal training process. Nothing has really changed here. So now if we scroll down, we can also see that the model did not finish the training process all the way to 30 epochs like we told it to. It stopped early at epoch number 17 or 16, and this is because of our early stopping callback. So we can only assume that it detected that the model stopped improving in terms of the validation loss at about 13 or 14 because we set the patients to 3. So when it detected that, it counted to 3 in terms of the epochs, and then it terminated. And again, that helps us combat overfitting because we're stopping it before it gets to overfit, okay? Boom. So now we have a significantly better result here. So previously we had a loss of 1.17, and then we had a accuracy of 0.78. If we scroll down now, our new result says that we have a loss of 0.95 and a accuracy of 0.79. So we're even closer to 80% in terms of our accuracy, but also we have a much better loss. This is because, again, we did not allow the process to go all the way to 30 epochs like we did above. We didn't cut it off up here, but now we have the early stopping callbacks, so it was able to stop it for us. So I really just hope all that makes sense. Callbacks are really helpful because, again, they can monitor the training process and provide some really cool functionality. And also, again, we have our checkpoint model.keras file here, so we can assume that this is the model with the best validation loss. So really cool. So you could use this one if you want to, because it should have that lowest validation loss, or you could use the model that it finished with. So you just simply would save that as I taught you above. So model.save. I'll show you guys one more callback just so we can get some more examples here. So we can do keras.callbacks.csv logger. And so to this one, you can provide just a file name. So training log.csv. And the way that this one works is basically during the training process, every single epoch is just going to save the metrics that you're tracking into a CSV file, which is essentially just an Excel spreadsheet, okay? So if we just take a look at the documentation here, it says callback that streams epoch results to a CSV file, supports all values that can be represented as a string. So simply provide the name of the CSV file that you want to save it to. And there's other options you can do, like the separator or the delimiter of the file. Another one is append. So if you set this to true, when you retrain using this callback, it's just going to add to the file that's already there if it is already there. But if you set it to false, it's just going to overwrite the file that's already there. So it's just going to give you new results only, okay? Okay, the model has finished training. So now we can see that in our files here, we have a training underscore log.csv file. So if we double click it, we can preview it. So we have a bunch of rows here for each of the epochs. So epoch accuracy, loss, validation accuracy, and validation loss. So this lines up with what we're tracking. So if that's useful to you, you can use that callback. Now what I want to do is teach you guys how to make your own custom callbacks, because maybe you want to do your own stuff, but also it helps you understand how callbacks actually work because you can create your own, okay? So a callback has all of these functions available to it. You can basically override these functions to listen to different parts of the training process. So if you override on epoch begin, then as you can guess, you can run some code every single time the epoch begins, ends, stuff like that, okay? So to create an actual custom callback, you can do class custom callback or give it a name that actually fits what you're doing. You can do keras.callbacks.callback. And then now we could do define on train begin. So this will be called, as you can expect, at the very beginning of the training process. So logs, you could specify that as none, and you could just print out a message. So we could say starting training. What we're also going to do is define a variable here. So self.per epoch losses. We're going to set that to be empty. And now with this callback, what we're going to do is every single epoch save the loss into this list here. And then we're also going to log the other metrics during the training process at the end of every single epoch, okay? One interesting fact though is if you scroll up here, whenever we call fit, we always know that it does this little progress bar and shows every single epoch and all the metrics and stuff like that. This is actually a callback. This is a default callback that Tensorflow uses. So we're basically making our own version of that, which is cool. So I don't think you need to see me type all of this out. So I just, pasted it here. So every single time an epoch begins, we're going to print the message starting epoch, and we're adding 1 onto it because it's 0 based. So the first one's 0. So we want to change that to 1, obviously. And then on epoch end, we can actually access our logs here. The logs will contain the metrics from this epoch. So we can do logs.get loss, for example. And we're going to go ahead and add that to our per epoch losses list that we have. So we're going to say epoch, whatever completed. And then we're going to print out the loss and the accuracy of the epoch. And then at the very end of the process, on train end, we're going to say training completed and then print out the final loss, which is the last value of our list. That's it. So now to use our callback, we can do custom callback is equal to custom callback. And then to use it, we're going to build a new model. So model 4, we're going to compile it same as before, and then we're going to fit it. And then when we specify the callbacks, we can simply provide a list with only one value, which is our custom callback. You can add whatever you want though, okay? But we're going to pass that in. But then we're also going to specify verbose as false. What that will do is disable the default callback that is printing out the metrics already, okay? So we can see ours only. So that's it. So let's try it out. So it says starting training, which we told it to do. Nice. Starting epoch 1 completed, 3.4, 0.31, epoch 2. And then at the very end, it said training completed, final loss, 0.95. So that is it. That's how you can create a custom callback. So that's pretty much all I want to show you for this episode, everybody. Hopefully you found this interesting. That's how you can save your model to a file. That's how you can load it from a file. That's how you can use callbacks to help with the training process. For example, early stopping, model checkpointing, making custom callbacks. I really hope you learned a lot, and thanks for watching, everybody. So that's it for this video, everybody. I really hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to also check the description below for important links to code and other resources, but also really important, join our Discord. We have a big community of over 5,000 programmers, and it's a place where you can find new friends or get help on any code that you're stuck on. If you want to support what I do on this channel, please consider hitting the join button below, and this will allow you to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, but there are different tiers to choose from if you want to. For anyone that becomes a member on my channel, you get a special rank on my Discord server, early access to new videos, and you can just see yourself on the screen right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. Thank you so much. And that's it. Peace.